are so lucky that we get to have Amy Dot here with us. And I just want to do a little intro for her and introduce you guys. So Amy Dot Harmer serves currently as the executive director of the Utah Refugee Connection, or the URC. URC serves refugees by connecting the community at large with unmet needs within the refugee community. Amy has been serving refugees for the last 7 years, and she's been innovative in the way she uses her gifts and talents. She has a great knack for connecting people to meet needs. And one of the reasons Utah Refugee Connection has had such great success is Amy's skills at making people see the gift and mutual benefit of service. When refugees come to the Serve Refugee Share House to get needed items, they are welcomed with open arms and leave with their dignity intact. Additionally, donors and volunteers love the positivity Amy and the staff share when they come. Another way Amy has contributed to local refugees is using social media to help the community at large have meaningful ways to learn about, serve, and give to local refugees. The Serve Refugees social media feed make it easy for Utahns to know how to engage with our displaced friends from around the world. Before running the URC, Amy's professional life took many turns. She has a bachelor's degree in elementary education from the University of Utah, and she worked full-time as an elementary school teacher for 3 years before starting a family. Amy also has a creative streak and is an accomplished artist. After starting a family, Amy worked from a home as a freelance artist for several years. Her artwork was widely distributed and took on many forms, from clip art, software, jewelry, to several fabric lines. She has also worked in the social media / blogging industry in several creative and marketing capacities. A lifetime of service led Amy to her work at URC. As a college student, Amy found she had a knack for organizing and executing large-scale service projects. Later in life, when she became involved, originally as a volunteer, with a couple of URC's large-scale service initiatives, she knew she had found her new professional home. Amy is married to Scott Harmer. They live in Sandy, Utah, and are the parents of 4 amazing children. When she's not engrossed in the next big refugee service event, Amy enjoys taking advantage of recreating in the beautiful Wasatch Mountains located minutes from her home. She's an avid mountain biker and hiker, and some of her other favorite pastimes include gardening and spending time just doing about anything with her family. She loves to remind people that you cannot do everything for everyone, but you can do something for someone. Who will that somebody be today? So we are so excited to have you, Amy. If you guys look in the chat, thank you. If you guys look in the chat, we'll have our sign in link. So make sure to sign in. But I'm going to turn the time over to Amy and to teach us all of her things.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Especially, I'm proud of you for chiming in because we're the day after a holiday and everyone's trying to get back on their feet and catching up. It says a lot that you would join in. Kirsten, let me know if you end up getting those slides. If not, I'm just going to go without them. First of all, I really love the job that I do. There's some really hard days, but there's some really beautiful days as well. So I get to see the best in humanity and also the worst in humanity. So first of all, I think it's helpful if I can help you better understand technically what a refugee is. We use that term really loosely, but really there is a specific definition for a refugee. And I'm going to tell you what the specific definition is. A refugee is a person who, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality and is unable to, or owing to such a fear, is unwilling to avail himself to the protection of that country. So basically, I mean, that's a technical term of a refugee, but a refugee is someone who can no longer stay in their country without possibly being persecuted or being killed. And in the graphic, I have a picture of people that are leaving their country. And in the picture, you can tell they're not leaving willingly. They're kind of scrambling to get out of the country because it's dangerous. Um, and technically, the organization that decides if someone is a refugee is called it's the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. And what they do is they have refugees fill out paper that determines how big of risk they are. And to technically have refugee status, UNHCR has to let you know that you do qualify. But we use that term loosely to just imply anyone that's fleeing from their country, but probably the better word to describe those people are displaced people. And right now in the world, we have over 100 million people who are now displaced, which is heartbreaking. That's a lot of people that can't stay in their own country. Technically, we have about 7 million refugees worldwide. One in every 78 people on earth right now has been forced to flee violence or persecution. That's a lot of people. So, like I said, one in every 78 people have an issue with where they're living and can no longer live there. A lot of times people ask, what are the most common countries that people are fleeing from right now? Obviously, we've added um, a new country with Ukrainians in the last year, but the top countries are Syria, Venezuela, Afghanistan, South Sudan, and Myanmar. So Afghanistan, like you say, we've heard that one in the news, but the newest one are the refugees that are fleeing Ukraine. And Utah has received about 1,000 refugees from Ukraine. So unfortunately, wherever there is conflict, and after a few years of it not being resolved, we end up taking in a lot of refugees. So I'm hoping everyone's hearing me okay. Then the next thing is, where do refugees go when they're seeking safety? And about 3/4 of refugees go to their bordering country. One of the countries that hosts the most refugees is Turkey. Turkey hosted nearly 3.8 million refugees and has, like I said, the largest population worldwide of refugees. Top hosting countries currently are Turkey, Colombia, Germany, Pakistan, and Uganda. And that's usually because they're closer neighboring countries to where there's conflict. Everyone always asks, where is the US on the list? We think we're in the top. We're actually 20th. So we don't have a history of taking the most refugees. One of the hardest things for me is most refugees, when they're in a refugee camp, they submit their paperwork, and in a lot of people's minds, they think, oh, they're just there a couple months or a couple weeks. The reality is some of them will stay there for decades. Some of them will live their entire lives in refugee camps. Only 1% of those in refugee camps are ever resettled in a secondary country, which to me is such a sad loss of human potential. I think of the 99% that will live out their lives in refugee camps, that won't have the schooling, won't have the opportunities that so many other people do, and what a huge loss of human potential that is. Kirsten, are you guys hearing me okay? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Okay,
great.
good. Okay. So then another question that we frequently get is, how many of those refugees are children? And at the end of 2021, we don't have all the numbers for 2022 yet, but 41% of refugees were below the age of 18 years old. And I think that's really heartbreaking as well, because a lot of those children are born into refugee status, meaning, their families are in a refugee camp, they're born into a refugee camp. And a lot of those children will never have very good access to education, if any. Some refugee camps, there's no educational system. So let's take, that was kind of the worldwide perspective. Now let's narrow it down to Utah. In Utah, we have about 65 to 70,000 refugees. It's hard to track the exact number because after a while, refugees move to other states, they become citizens, but we have about 65,000. Some have been here decades and some have been here since last week. To give you an idea of about how many refugees that is, that's a little bit more than what the BYU stadium holds. So if you can think of that many refugees in Utah, that maybe gives you a little bit better visual. Where are most refugees that come to the United States? Well, we have the most actually in Salt Lake County. That's probably the first question before we get to where they're from. But most refugees are in Utah or Salt Lake County right now because that's where the affordable housing is and where the resources are. However, that is shifting and we're starting to see more refugees moving farther to the west, and we're also seeing some new opportunities for refugees to be settled in different places across Utah because, like I said, there's such a lack of affordable housing. Countries that they come from: Somalia, the Congo, Syria, Iraq, Vietnam, Burma, Myanmar. We don't have one particular population of refugees that are all from one place. We just really have a large variety. In some of the schools where a lot of refugees go, the educators report that there are 30 languages spoken, which as an educator and also, you know, as a provider in the community, if you're working with people from diverse backgrounds, it's hard to have access to all the translators. So there's over 30 languages spoken in the refugee community. Granite School District is the district that educates the most refugees. And that's because, like I said, the affordable housing is within that district. And then also that's where a lot of services are that refugees can access. Frequently people ask, well, what happens when refugees first arrive? So when refugees have filled out all their paperwork and they're finally, after years, granted refugee status, then there are two organizations that help them when they first arrive. The two organizations that help resettle the refugees and help set up housing are International Rescue Committee and Catholic Community Services. And they're the ones that help coordinate when they're arriving, where they'll live, and then they help them in case management. It used to be that it was 2 years, and unfortunately now it's only down to 1 year of support, which I think is so challenging because if you think about learning a language, learning a culture, being expected to work, maybe not having an education, how difficult it would be to get on your feet in 12 months. However, in some states, it's only 90 days. So I think refugees that are resettled here are very fortunate because there's so much support and help. Like many groups, Utah Refugee Connection, we help support all the organizations that are making a difference for refugees. We have the English Skills Learning Center that does a lot of the English classes. We have Granite School District that has adult community centers that help. We have Utah Health and Human Rights that helps with refugees that have been the victims of torture. And we do have a really beautiful network of organizations that are making a difference for refugees. So a little bit more granular level in talking about exactly what we do at Utah Refugee Connection. Our goal is to fill in some of the gaps in services when refugees are resettled here. We know there's no way every organization can do it all, and we work very collaboratively with IRC and CCS and English Skills Learning Center and Granite School District to find out what are the needs in the community and what can we do to help. One of the biggest ways that we share information is through social media, and our goal through our social media feeds and our websites and everything we do is to help you, the established community, know ways to learn about, serve, and give to local refugees. And and do that in meaningful ways. I think there's a lot of people that want to help refugees, but they really don't know what to do, or they don't know where to start. And I think we really try and help bridge to the general community what are ways that you can get involved. So that's a little bit about us. Our social media feed is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and it's under Serve Refugees. And we are posting every day different needs that we have. It's really cool to see all the different programs that are going on in the refugee community. There's refugee food truck vendors, there's soccer programs, there's a refugee goat farm that we just had an event at, there's World Refugee Day, there's dance groups that are performing and doing different things. And so there's so much in our own community. You don't have to go far. You can have this beautiful multicultural experience in your own backyard. One of the things that, or one of the quotes that I really love is by an author named Michael Lewis, who's kind of a business author, but this is his quote. It says, "Above all, recognize that if you have had success, you have also had luck. And with luck comes obligation. You owe a debt, and not just to your gods, you owe a debt to the unlucky." And I think refugees are some of the most unlucky people I know, just because of where they were born. And if you think about your own life, if you feel like you've had some kind of luck or some kind of success, you've also had luck. And, you know, a lot of us may be religious and we think, okay, well, I owe a debt to my God, but really we owe a debt to the unlucky around us. And like I said, refugees are some of those of the unlucky that we interact with frequently in our own community. And so doing what we can to make a difference is really impactful in their lives. So if you're saying to yourself, well, what can I do? I think the first thing you can do is find ways to learn about refugees and their cultures and religions and their experiences. We have quarterly cultural nights, and in my graphic, it shows the next one is in September, and then we have another one in November. But those are a really awesome opportunity for the established community to come and learn from refugees. We usually have 3 to 4 refugees from different communities, like the Bhutanese community or the Somali community. They come and share their experiences, and they share helpful tips. What was helpful for them? They educate people on why they left their country, what made a difference for them. And then we also open it up for you to ask questions. Sometimes we have dancers, sometimes we have food from those cultures. So that's a really good opportunity. I don't know how many of you know, but we have a World Refugee Day celebration in Salt Lake. That's one of the biggest in the Western United States, and that's held every year in June. And that's a great way to learn about refugees. Also, if you know someone that is working with refugees, maybe say, hey, tell me a little bit about what you do. Is there a way I can get involved? What did you do to get involved? And ask people what they're doing. Because a lot of times if you're helping a refugee family or mentoring, there's so many needs that other people are always, or these mentors are very receptive to other people helping them. So that's learning about. The next thing is serve, finding ways to serve. So we post on our social media feed. It's not so much on our website because it's hard to keep that as current. There are some opportunities on our website, but just right now there's several beautiful things. One is we host a back to school night, which will have about 1,200 refugees that will come and get a backpack. They'll go and find out some things from providers about after school programming, where they can go to get immunizations, where they can go to get glasses. And we need mentors to take them through that event. And that's just a one-time service opportunity that's coming up the first week in, or the second week in August. There's a group that meets every month to dance in the refugee community. A lot of the cultures from around the world. Dance is a big part of their culture. And so there's a monthly dance gathering where you can go and dance with them, but also more importantly, you can help with refreshments. So you can bring snacks, and there's a sign up where you actually sign up to help. Just last week, there was a really cool basketball camp for refugee youth and teens where they were looking for referees and coaches and people to help with drills, help with food. So there is a myriad of ways you can get involved. You know, you may not feel comfortable going to a dance event and providing snacks, but you maybe really love basketball and feel like you have a skill set that could help with that. And it was just a one-time opportunity. Like I said, there are also ongoing opportunities to help, and we share information about those as well. And then ways to give. I wish you could see my PowerPoint because right now we're in the middle of a big backpack drive, and we're a little nervous about it because school starts a lot earlier and a lot of people aren't thinking about back to school. But last year we gave out 5,000 back to school kits. And in my PowerPoint, I have the exact graphic that we need, the items, that the graphic that has the items that we need, and then other items that we collected at our share house. We have a menstrual program where we help with menstrual supplies for refugee women. We constantly need diapers. We have a cleaning and personal kit very specific to the refugee community that we give out as incentives for classes and workshops. There's lots of different ways that you can donate. And it doesn't always have to be a monetary donation. It can be items that are helpful in the refugee community. But I hope this has been helpful for all of you. And you've learned something new. I would be happy to answer any questions that people might have. It's I did kind of a fast and furious overview. And maybe Kirsten can share some of the graphics. I can send them, and you can forward them to maybe the participants. But I welcome any questions that people have.
We have a question about where they can go to look up upcoming events. Do you have a website that they can?
So yes, you can go to our website that has the culture nights. It doesn't have the back to school night. I think the best, most current and fast way is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And our social media feed also feeds into the webpage. So if you're not on any of those social media feeds, you can go to our website, which is serverefugees.org. So anyway, any other thoughts, questions? I do like that you put that quote, that Michael Lewis quote is a good one because it just reminds us that, you know, success a lot of times comes from just simply being lucky and in the right situation. Any more questions in there? Give them to me. Let's see. I don't see any. Maybe I'll tell you one last story before we end. This takes it down to a little more personal level. And this story begins with a young mom in Somalia who is struggling with, like a normal mom here in Utah, with lots of kids and lots of things going on, except for she has the challenge of knowing that the enemy, a rivaling tribe, is close by and may interrupt her normal life. And she knows that there's a signal that could be given at any time, and at that time they need to run to a point that's been identified as a safety point. And she's, you know, going about her daily activities, and she hears this signal, and she grabs her 5 children and runs to the place where there's safety. And she gets there and she realizes there's a boat that's supposed to take them to safety. And she gets there and she realizes she's got all of her kids, but she's forgotten her little 9-month-old infant back at her house. And, you know, the captain of the ship realizes there's a problem. And she says, well, I'm struggling to know what to do because I've got most of my kids here, but I've left one behind. And I don't know if she's still alive. I don't know if our house has been burned down in this little village. And he says, well, here's the problem. You can't leave your kids here because I can't take them without a parent. And if you go back to get your daughter, I don't know if we'll, you know, we can't wait for you. And she may not even be alive. So I just want you to think about facing that experience as a mother. What would you do? Do you go back to the child that you left behind? Or do you just go on with your kids that you have with you? Do you get on the boat? Do you miss the boat and hope that there's another one coming? These are the kind of questions that some of these refugees have faced. Um, this story is interesting because what ended up happening is this particular woman's brother-in-law went through the village looking for family members after the enemy had invaded and realized that there was this little baby in the home, and she luckily was not heard, and no one had found her. And so he picks up this little 9-month-old and starts walking to this safety point. And as he gets closer, he can see that the boat's taking off and the captain's turning people away and says, we don't have any more room. And he had grabbed a few items from the home along with the baby, and he has the foresight to wrap the baby up really tight in his arms and make it look like he's carrying supplies. And he goes toward the boat, and the captain says, we don't have any more room for any individuals on this boat. And he said, well, I don't need to get on, but I know my sister-in-law's on this boat and I have some supplies that she'll need. And he takes the blanket and throws them up onto the boat. And you can only imagine what the mom would feel as she catches this bundle of supplies and realizes her 9-month-old baby is wrapped in that little blanket, and that little baby's life has been spared. And the beautiful part of this story is this little girl that was wrapped up in the blanket is now one of my dear friends and has graduated from the University of Utah and as a social worker. And I just feel like, first of all, it's a good story because it reminds you of all the things these families have been through. Secondly, she credits a lot of beautiful people holding her hand along the way. She started at East High as a 16-year-old, not knowing the language. And she says, I remember just sitting in my classroom as people kept changing classrooms, not knowing what was going on, but how there were people along the way that took her hand and showed her the way. And all along the way, there have been people that have stepped in to make a difference for her. And when refugees get here, they just need someone to help them as they get their basic needs met and figure out how to do things. And if we can help them initially when they get here, then they're going to be beautiful parts of our, members of our community that give back in ways that no one can foresee. I see these refugees on a daily basis just navigating such difficulty as they're learning the language, they're trying to learn skills, they're trying to get on their feet. And I also see people in the established community like you individuals reaching out in meaningful ways. And I just am so grateful to see the impact that we can have on each other's lives, and how refugees are going to solve some of the problems we can't solve because they think totally differently than we do. They're used to using every possible item in every possible way, because in a refugee camp you've got to figure out how to do what you can with what you have. And I don't think we think about that. We're a very disposable community. And I've seen just such innovative thinking among my refugee friends. They're going to be awesome entrepreneurs and inventors, and, intelligence, ingenuity, creativity, they're universal. What isn't universal is opportunities. So once we get refugees past those basic skill levels, then we can see their creativity, we can see their ingenuity, we can see their intelligence, and then they contribute to like what our community can be. So, just an encouragement to maybe change your perspective a little bit about refugees and learn the ways that you can get involved. Go to their churches, go to their activities. Don't, I mean, we're really good at inviting refugees to our things, but nothing's more beautiful than going to a Ramadan break your fast iftar with Muslims and learning something totally different, or trying food from some of these refugee vendors. Anything we can do to make their lives a little better and help them become a part of our community is just the best thing we can do. So I'm wondering, does anyone have any more questions after I've kind of inspired you maybe to get involved? I'm waiting for Annie to pop up. Kirsten, maybe I'll send you some of the graphics that were in it that would have like some of the ways you can go to cultural events, how you can be involved, and send you also a link if people want to sign up to walk a family through our back to school event. Like I said, it's really cool. It's on a Monday afternoon, evening. You can come and you'll be matched up with a refugee family and help them get backpacks, take them out to a carnival. And it's kind of a cool experience to just get to know someone new. And I know people that actually have done a one-time event and become very good friends with the people that they take through. So it's kind of a good opportunity to see how much diversity we have right here in our own backyard. And you don't have to go to another country to really make a difference. You can do something right here.
I love that. Yes, we would absolutely love any graphics you have for us.
And I'm
I
sorry
can
about the PowerPoint and the connection. I've always struggled a little bit with WebEx, so hopefully I'll get on.
No, that's totally okay. I can't thank you enough for even being willing to come in and talk with us and teach us. If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I just wanted to also recognize I was really hit by those numbers that you said at the very beginning, that there's over 100 million displaced people and 7 million refugees.
Yeah, and it goes up every day, unfortunately, anywhere there's conflict. Oh, I do want to say, the Ukrainians and the Afghan refugees come in a little bit different way, and they were able to get out quickly. That is not the norm for most individuals. Most individuals and most countries, they do not get pushed through that fast. But because of what was happening in Ukraine and what happened in Afghanistan, they were able to get out a little earlier. So and I shouldn't say earlier, but faster. So that is rare. So that's a little bit different, but it's a brutal, brutal lifestyle, unfortunately. So anyway, but thank you, everyone.
No, thank you. We appreciate all that you do for the community. We'll stay on for just a couple minutes longer if anyone has any more questions. Otherwise, don't forget to sign in. The link is in the chat. And thank you guys for joining us.
All right. Thanks. It was a pleasure to be with you. I hope you learned a little something new.
Thanks, Amy. All right, Amy, I never got that email. If you want to try to resend
I'll send it.
And then I can just pull it from the slides too.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks so much. See you later. Bye-bye.
No, thank you so much. Bye.